Good morning. It's an honor to be here with you today representing the Johns Hopkins University Applied Physics Lab at GEOINT 2017. I'd like to thank USGIF for the invitation and also for hosting this special session for UARCs. My name is Jennifer Sample. I'm the Program Manager for Advanced Science and Technology Development at APL, and I'll talk to you today about some of our work in 3D remote sensing. I'll start off with giving some background information about the lab for those of you who aren't familiar or haven't had the chance to work with us yet. So APL is the largest of the 14 UARCs. We're a Navy UARC, and we're located about halfway between Baltimore and Washington, D.C., about less than an hour outside of Washington. Our lab started in 1942. We started in Silver Spring, Maryland, in a secretive facility complete with used car sign. Our initial mission was to develop the proximity or variable time fuse, which enabled shells to detonate at close range to a target, such as an enemy plane attacking a Navy ship. It was an enormous improvement over contact or timed fuses, and it helped turn World War II for the Allies. Today, APL is located on a much larger campus in Howard County, Maryland. Our scientists, engineers, and analysts serve as trusted advisors to the government, including the Department of Defense, the intelligence community, the Department of Homeland Security, and NASA. As a UARC, APL maintains a broad range of core technical competencies with a focus on practical applications of research to national security and scientific challenges. The remote sensing work that I'll discuss draws from this rich diversity of subject matter expertise. This year, APL is celebrating our 75th anniversary, for those that didn't do the math. So I'll take a moment to highlight some of the defining innovations. I've been at the lab for 15 years, so I knew about some of these. I knew much of the history, but two of them I hadn't heard about before, and I thought that they were relevant. Back in 1946, APL scientist James Van Allen launched captured German V-2 rockets into space from White Sands, New Mexico, to measure cosmic radiation in the Earth's atmosphere. On board was an APL-developed camera that took the first photo of Earth from space. Later in 1967, APL built the Dodge spacecraft that took the first color photo of Earth from space. In 1958, APL developed the first satellite geopositioning system. This was developed to enable more accurate submarine navigation and was operational until the 90s and the advent of modern GPS. The last two you may have heard about in the news. Messenger spacecraft was launched in 2004 and was the first spacecraft to orbit Mercury in 2011. It impacted the surface in 2015, ending a very successful mission. And more recently, APL built the New Horizons spacecraft, which launched in 2006 and did the first ever reconnaissance flyby of Pluto in 2015, which was a very big day at APL with lots of press and families visiting, and continues to explore beyond. Our imaging systems group's research focuses on 3D remote sensing. Our origins were in radar interferometry and stereo photogrammetry, and we've spent a good chunk of the last 20 years working on LiDAR. The following slides highlight APL's UARC roles applied to 3D remote sensing: conducting research and development, performing a trusted advisor role to assist with technology development, and also transition to operations. I will tackle these in reverse order. So starting with LiDAR, tactical LiDAR research began in APL back in the late 90s. The first commercial LiDAR systems were developed in the mid-90s for surveying, and similar systems are still in use today. The top left image illustrates topographic mapping using an airborne LiDAR system. LiDAR uses time-of-flight laser ranging combined with GPS and inertial navigation for very accurate positioning, geolocation. In those early days, APL developed software for practical things that didn't yet exist in the commercial world, things like visualizing the 3D LiDAR point clouds. And those tools were used by the Army Corps of Engineers, enabling APL to start thinking about tactical uses of LiDAR. For the GEOINT program with NGA in 2004, APL designed and built a gimbal enabling multi-look LiDAR. This helped exploit gaps in foliage canopy, enabling visualization of things like trails and vehicles below. Multi-look is also useful for improved modeling of the 3D structure in a scene, leading to things like building images, as you can see here. GEOINT was deployed to Afghanistan as a quick reaction capability, and several APLers went out to support that transition. Its success there led to the development of the TACOP system by the Army, and APL is still engaged today with helping assess future systems for the Army. That's now a program of record. Leveraging our expertise with LiDAR, APL is now supporting IARPA. We heard a little bit about a couple of these programs already from Stacy Dixon. We're supporting IARPA as a trusted advisor to help enable public research in stereo photogrammetry using satellite imagery. The Multi-View Stereo 3D Mapping Challenge drew international participation and resulted in several open-sourced solutions for multi-view stereo from countries like France, Poland, and the United States. If you look on the bottom right green image, you can see the winning solution, and above it is the ground truth LiDAR. The winning solution is created from the overhead imagery, so you can see that it's really quite good. To promote further public research, IARPA has released the data and software to the Satellite Benchmark website shown at the bottom. And now APL is supporting the Core 3D program. The Public Stereo Challenge was a first step in preparing for IARPA's Core 3D program. Core 3D seeks to create operationally realistic environments in 3D, as we just heard. And APL is assisting with data, performer data, ground truth data, metrics development, and of course, rigorous test and evaluation once the program is underway later this year. Dr. Hak-Jae Kim, the program manager, is with us here this morning. And finally, I'll jump on the AI and machine learning bandwagon a little bit and tell you about our independent research and development programs that we explore to pioneer and explore emerging technologies. There's some recent examples relevant to remote sensing shown on this slide. APL has an active postdoctoral researcher program to attract talented researchers to the lab. And in the center bottom, you see an image from one of our postdocs who applied his 3D modeling PhD thesis work to an atmospheric compensation challenge with hyperspectral imagery to obtain more reliable spectral signatures for materials classification. APL, about a year ago, launched a large intelligent systems center, a big open facility where we've co-located our neuroscience, computer science, and robotics researchers in the same space. Part of the Intelligent Systems Center involves this model zoo, which is basically a resource for trained deep neural network models for APL researchers. And it also sponsors internal hackathons to train new models. The image at the bottom right is an example. It shows a deep neural network for so-called super resolution, where you can see basically creation of plausible details in an image by the model. APL also hosts internal challenges for staff. In the top middle picture, the Hunt for Luna 9 is an example. APL challenged researchers to develop algorithms to find a Soviet unmanned spacecraft from the 60s that was left on the moon in NASA imagery. And the final example that I'll mention is on the top right. This is an ongoing challenge right now, asking APL researchers to develop artificially intelligent players to compete in a version of chess that limits a player's observation of the board to better match practical autonomy tasks using sensors to observe the adversary. These are just a few examples. There's many other things that we do that I'd be happy to talk with any of you about, including natural language processing, activity-based intelligence, a variety of other capabilities that we have amongst the 6,000 staff at APL. And for another resource for more information that I'll point you to is our website. Because of our 75th anniversary, we have a lot of great new content up there, and you can see more about our External Intelligence Systems Forum that we hosted very recently as well. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jennifer. Our last presentation will be on behalf of the Space Dynamics Laboratory at Utah State University. Please help me welcome Jim Marshall to the stage. Thank you.
Good morning. It's great to be here. I'm Jim Marshall from the Space Dynamics Lab at Utah State University. My colleague, Darren Partridge, who runs our C4ISR division, ran a marathon in Jackson, Wyoming yesterday and then missed the connection. So I'm here. I'm glad to be here. Space Dynamics Laboratory is a part of Utah State University, which is the land-grant university for the state of Utah, not to be confused with the University of Utah, which is down in Salt Lake City and wears red football uniforms and sometimes plays in bowl games. We've been around since 1959, and as you can see from the animation in the film, we started out doing research in the upper atmosphere using sounding rockets, specifically captured German V-2 rockets, and we've sort of graduated from there to larger and larger space payloads. The animation that you're seeing now is from the NASA OSIRIS-REx program, which launched in September and will visit the asteroid Bennu. It'll retrieve a sample and return it to the Earth about 7 years from now for analysis. Our role in the program was to develop the sensor system that observed the sampling of the atmosphere. There we are. We were founded back in 1959. We're a 501c3 nonprofit corporation wholly owned by Utah State University and governed by an independent board of trustees, which gives us about 1 degree of separation from the academic departments up on campus. Our sponsor is the Missile Defense Agency. They're our UARC sponsor, but we do work for NASA and NOAA and across the DoD and across the intelligence community. Our founders were faculty members who had worked for the Air Force Geophysics Lab at Hanscom Air Force Base, and when they came to Utah State University, they brought projects with them. In the early years of the Cold War, we were pioneering the use of infrared sensors for missile defense, for characterizing the effect of electromagnetic pulses in the upper atmosphere, for being able to track missiles against complex backgrounds and so forth. We're the Space Dynamics Laboratory, but it's a little bit misleading because more than half of our work is aircraft tactical reconnaissance based. And so we've been around for a while and kind of run that gamut. We thought it would be interesting to describe a little bit of the work that we do in the area of small satellites, which is one of the fastest growing areas at the laboratory and one of the fastest growing areas nationally. We've been hosting the AIAA Small Satellite Conference in Logan, Utah for more than 30 years now. It brings together more than 2,000 people from the small satellite arena, including a lot of the new venture capital funded small satellite organizations. We build small satellite buses, we build sensors for small satellites, we do assembly, integration, and test and characterization of the small satellites, and a lot of work on ground systems for small satellites, kind of across the board. One little program that I would highlight here is the Hyperangular Rainbow Polarimeter for NASA. It's one of the small satellite programs that I can talk about. We have about a dozen going on right now that I can't. But this is a sensor that will take polarimetry data to characterize clouds in the atmosphere. We're teamed with the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, and this is under the NASA Earth Science Technology Office. This is kind of our Rosetta Stone slide at Space Dynamics Lab. If you picture the data processing chain for any kind of intelligence, up in the upper corner, you've got the platforms that have sensors on them that you're taking the data from. Space Dynamics Laboratory works across almost all of the platforms: space, aircraft, ground-based. The one thing we haven't done is undersea vehicles or platforms yet, and we'd love to. But we bring that data down, you're going to downlink it, you're going to ingest it into a network, format it properly, put it into databases and standardize it, fuse it, be able to retrieve it, run exploitation algorithms against it, and then disseminate that data across the world and across a wide variety of platforms. The Space Dynamics Laboratory contributes to every step along the way from the photon in or the message in to the message out. And you know, we started out building hardware, and now the largest discipline at SDL are software engineers. One of the projects that has been very successful for us as a result of a more than 20-year collaboration with the Naval Research Laboratory, going back to the days when we first began putting digital cameras on board aircraft. We call it now the Vantage suite of software. It performs functions across most of the nodes that I described back on my Rosetta Stone slide. From ingesting the data and processing the data and then disseminating the data. It's an open government-owned architecture that we developed as part of our UARC role. We think that's a really good role for a university-affiliated research center that has this relationship with the Department of Defense. And we're able to rapidly prototype new aspects of the system. We can port in new sensor systems into the network. We can plug in algorithms into it. My colleague Darren Partridge had the idea of putting 200 words on a single slide. It wasn't really my idea, so we tried to highlight some of the things that might be of interest there. This is an article that he was proud of from the Air Force regarding the use of our Vantage system in the Distributed Common Ground System for aircraft-based tactical reconnaissance. In DCGS, our system is called VIPC, or the Virtual Image Processing Capability. This allows the government to have access to great high-power computing systems using GPUs. We have an open image processing framework, able to increase the competition, be able to bring in any kind of sensor. The sensors don't require stovepiped ground systems to be able to share the data across the network. They're able to fuse data from multiple sensors that are exploiting multiple different phenomenologies, and then we're able to bring in algorithms, including proprietary algorithms, and plug those in and use them to exploit the government's data. We think this is a good capability that we've been able to provide the government. It applies across a number of different platforms. We're now doing some similar activities in space, leveraging what's coming down off of small satellites. This particular system is bringing in data from U2, from Global Hawk, from SIRES, and a number of other systems out there. The other area at the laboratory that has grown the fastest over the last 5 years or so are our radar systems that are small enough and powerful enough to put onto unmanned aerial systems. We're doing multi-static radar, we're doing ground-moving target indicators, a long-track interferometry. We are able to fly these systems out of a hangar that's just a few minutes away from our main headquarters in Logan, Utah. And we have flight privileges at the Utah Test and Training Range so that our government customers can come out, they can bring their own sensors, and we can lay down targets out at the Utah Test and Training Range and then be able to get in 2 or 3 test flights a day very inexpensively. Doing that, we've been able to advance our capabilities and the government's capabilities for these kinds of sensors quite a bit. This grew out of our relationships with the Naval Research Laboratories, now the Air Force Research Laboratories Sensors Directorate at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base is also coming out using our range and using our aircraft and our capabilities. Along with this, we developed a system that we called Sigma, which is a sensor control capability that we're able to control multiple sensors on the single platform or across multiple platforms, allow them to collaborate with each other in the sense that one sensor can use a certain kind of phenomenology to cue another sensor to slew around and characterize a target once you've detected a target. We're able to give it a target list and send it off to interrogate those targets. If a given target is blocked, it can move on to the next thing on the list, or it can reprioritize dynamically. We do a lot of control theory in order to develop that capability. We also have some internal work going on in the area of convolutional neural networks, which we think will also apply to what we're doing here. We've got about 560 staff members out there in Logan, Utah. 120 of them are college students at any given time. They're working side by side with great engineers, and by the time they finish a master's degree at Utah State University, they've got several years of experience working with us, and they've probably also got a security clearance as well, which we think is a good thing in terms of developing a pipeline. We're grateful for the opportunity to be here today. Thank you for this opportunity. You can come and see us at booth number 1260. Thank you.